As you can probably tell from the title, this video is 22 things I have learned in 2022. This year has been a movie with so many different plot twists. It's kind of scary. So I'm going to split this video into two parts. The first 11 things I've learned are a result of all the issues and all the events that have gone on within society, within pop culture, and just on a global scale as well. The last 11 things are more personal traits that I feel I need to implement into my own lifestyle in order for me to become the best possible version of myself. And we're starting right now. The first thing I've learned in 2022 is how incredibly short life is.
A few moments ago, Buckingham Palace announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
I know a lot of people do die every year and it's quite sad, but it also puts you in a position of reflection. When people die, it reminds us as human beings to be more self-aware and to, constantly checking on others, see if they're doing okay, because we don't know what they're going through. It also reminds us that we are just as much human as the next man who died. The second thing that happened this year was the inflation surge. See, the thing is, I had already known that Ireland had become one of the most expensive countries in Europe for consumers simply because we lack the resources and we have to get everything imported. But this year was such an iffy year for the Irish economy. The cost of living prices just shot up out of nowhere and more people are becoming homeless this year than ever before. Fam, even chicken rolls have went from $2.50 to $4.70, and that's not even including a drink, The way I know I could buy something, but I actively choose not to because I know I won't have money left to do anything else. So I'll just go for the cheaper alternative. But again, it's important that whatever you do go through, you're constantly in a state of learning. The inflation surge has caused me to be more conscious of my money, to manage my finances a little bit more better and just save a bit more better, The third thing I took note of was the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard case. I feel like there's a lot we can learn from this case, especially on what makes a relationship healthy versus toxic, and then also on how anybody can be a victim of sexual abuse, domestic abuse, violence, verbal abuse. Anybody can be a victim of those things, be it man or woman. But this case really kind of reminded me how detrimental defamation can really be.
God, did he just hit me?
Never did I myself reach the point of striking Miss Heard.
There's a verse in the Bible that says a good name is better than riches, and then when you look at this case, you'll completely understand how priceless a good name is and how worth fighting for it is. Number 4 is the pursuit of the truth. See how that rhymed? Pursuit, truth. We live in a generation where the truth is so difficult to hear, so it is diluted with feelings and emotions, which in turn makes it further from the truth. In case you didn't already know, the media is there to distract us by how many views we have, how many follows, how many likes and comments that we have. It's there to distract us from all the things going on behind the scenes. 2022 has taught me to pursue the truth by any means necessary. But again, the truth can be very difficult to hear, especially when it's coming from an individual that you do not like. For example, I am not placing my stamp of approval on people like Andrew Tate. But if you look at some of the stuff he says from an objective point of view, you'll realize that most of what he says is the truth about our modern day society.
The world we live in today tries very hard to refuse a man his natural instincts as a man. Yeah. And this is done on purpose. This is not done on accident.
But I guess because it was delivered in such a controversial way, he had all his platforms taken off him. But the thing about Andrew is that he was willing to pursue the truth by any means necessary. The 5th thing that happened this year, and probably the most memorable part of 2022, was the slap.
Oh, wow!
Will Smith slapping Chris Rock was probably the most comedic thing I've ever seen happen at the Oscars. It was just the most random thing that could have happened. Like, I know Chris Rock was completely shook when that happened. But the thing about that slap, it caused people to have conversations, and conversations that a lot of people didn't want to have. There were conversations such as if words are considered violence, or if we as a generation have become too accustomed to quote-unquote black on black violence. Either way, Will Smith was blinded by rage and it caused him to create a spectacle of himself on national TV. What that has taught me is to have better control over my emotions and try to figure out if I can find a different alternative. Because the first rule about doing something in public is that whatever is done on the internet stays on the internet. The sixth thing that happened this year was the Russian versus Ukraine war. I don't really stay informed what happens towards the eastern side of the world, so when the news of this war broke out, I was so shook. I was like, what's going on? There's a war now? Everybody thought it was going to be the start of World War III because it's Russia. Russia's huge. And I know the negative impacts of war always outweighs the positive, but I think that this war simply just reminded that to me. There were a lot of Ukrainians that lost their homes and then fled to Ireland and other EU countries. And the thing is, I know Ukraine is doing its possible best to fight back, but it doesn't change the fact that this war is still going to leave so many emotional and physical scars on a lot of people. So if there's one thing we can learn from this war, it's how the decision of one single solitary man can change the lives of so many people. And that leads on to my next point. 2022 has shown me the difference between the problem and the people. Now we're pretty much out of the COVID-19 pandemic, but it has taught me a very valuable lesson. Come close, come close. Listen very closely. Just because someone has some form of connection to the country that has caused the problem does not mean you should treat them any less of a human being that they are, especially when they are not the ones who directly caused the problem. Did you know that just because the coronavirus had originated from the eastern side of the world, so many Asians had gotten slandered? They had nothing to do with the virus. Just because they were from that side of the world, they had been discriminated against, they have been excluded, and it boggles my brain. Many people were acting as if they were the ones that conjured up the virus. Again, the best thing you can possibly do is look for a way to solve the problem or adapt to it, rather than projecting your own internal hatred towards somebody else who did nothing wrong. I rest. The eighth thing I've learned this year is how you will reap what you sow. For those of you that don't know, it's a terminology used in the Bible that is meant to depict how whatever you do, you will see the result of that thing. If you put a seed in the ground and you cater to its every need, it's going to eventually grow up to be a plant. In the same way, if you as a human being end up doing something good, you will see the benefit of that good thing. If you end up doing something stupid, you will end up seeing the consequence of that stupidity, whether you like it or not, whether it's now or later. And people like Mason Greenwood are a prime example of this. Having money, power, and influence might mean you will not immediately see the consequences, but you will eventually. The ninth thing that happened this year, and it really just popped off out of nowhere: vaping.
Which is the study of language as a cultural linguistics, which you'll find in other parts of the university. Linguistic anthropology is...
Now I know vapes have been around for ages, like they've been around since I was in first year in secondary school. But it's this year that has taught me how easily accessible vapes are to children. There have been countless of times I have tried to enjoy my bus ride home. Tell me why. There's always kids at the back of the bus screaming and shouting and vaping like choo-choo trains, trying to show off to each other, see how many puffs they can puff in one breath. Like it's crazy. I don't understand. Like, vaping is supposed to be a quote-unquote healthier alternative to smoking. So I don't know why every kid and their dog has a vape. Listen, it's just a thing where I don't want to see kids developing unhealthy addictions before they touch college and university, before they touch secondary school at this point. Because when I was their age, I was watching Ben 10, I was playing Nintendo, I was not vaping. You understand? So please stop making vapes so easily accessible to children. I remember at the start of the year, everybody loved to use the phrase,
new year, new me, this is my year, 2022, we take over, this and the other.
Do you know whose year it was this year? It was Mr. Beast's year. In 2022, Mr. Beast became the most subscribed YouTuber, passing PewDiePie with over 100 million subscribers. The reason why he's on this list is because that man is the genius of 2022. The thing is, I don't always watch his videos, but when I do, best believe I'm probably going to watch the whole thing. The way that man goes about his craft is so mesmerizing, it's so inspirational. I have spent so many hours analyzing this guy and breaking down how he constructs himself, how he orchestrates his lifestyle, and how he orchestrates his team as well. And I think that's one of the best things that you can do. You look at somebody who already has success in the field that you are in, and you study that person, you analyze that person, you look at what they do, you break it down to the last crumb. And that's what I've been doing. That's Mr. Beast. He doesn't know this, and he'll probably never know, but he has played such a huge impact in my sort of learning, in my sort of mindset, if that makes sense. And the 11th thing I've learned this year is creation and consumption. I had a module in college that required me to do an assignment on Gen Z and their overconsumption of social media and entertainment. And I have come down to the conclusion that if we as Gen Zers, if that's even a word, if we as people of Gen Z spent half as much time creating content as we do consuming stuff like Netflix and Disney Plus and Hulu, whatever, we would feel a lot more productive, we will feel a lot more happier, we would feel like we're doing something much more significant with our lives. So 2022 has taught me to spend more time creating, researching and creating. You can use time to enjoy all these different entertainment sources, but always make sure you're creating. Use that creativity, because creativity is limitless and it can take you to God knows where. The next 11 things I'm going to mention are things that I feel like I won't stop learning, that I will continue to keep on learning and refining, and to just work at these things in order to be, in order to be the best possible version of myself that I can possibly be. The 12th thing I've learned this year is to not be impulsive, but to have a calculated or educated plan. The thing is, I'm a very rapid thinker, and it's a case where there'll be times where I'll have an idea in my head, and because I have the idea right there and then, I want to act on it right there and then, but sometimes I'm not supposed to. Sometimes I have to give it a bit more thought and calculate a plan and see the pros and cons of what I'm going to do. So I guess 2022 has taught me not to just jump into things, but to actually slow down a little bit and take some time to actually, assess that plan. The 13th thing I've learned this year is to underpromise and overdeliver. I don't like when people expect too much from me, if that makes sense. Like, I get because of how I present myself, people will be expecting certain things from me, but there'll be times where people will be expecting something and I'm not able to meet their expectations. So it'll be a thing where I'll underpromise and I'll overdeliver if I can. If not, I'll just meet the basic requirements of that promise that I made. I know a lot of people see that as limiting yourself, and I do completely see that. I get that completely. But I don't know, I just prefer to not have people expect too much from me and then be disappointed when I'm not able to deliver. The 14th thing I've learned is that adaptability is a valuable skill. Being able to look at your situation and not let it bring you down, but rather adapt to it and see how you can make the most out of it, is a valuable skill, and it's something that a lot of companies want. 2022 has thrown so many different curveballs at me, and it's kind of forced me to adapt to certain things. But looking at it now, adaptability is so important and it's so valuable, and it's a skill that I will be taking with me to 2023. Number 15 is doing check-ins on yourself and improving your self-awareness. A lot of people don't understand that your body will be the first one to tell you that you need to rest, that you are burning out, that you need to stop what you're doing. But the thing is, we don't pay attention to these different signs. So then when we do end up burning out and it physically becomes evident, people from outside will begin to tell us. So I want to be able to check in on myself, to improve my self-awareness, and to just see where I'm at. Because I feel like someone that knows their strengths and limitations is someone that has their head screwed on correctly. The 16th thing I've learned this year is to not be scared to be creative. At the start of 2022, I wanted to be quote unquote that guy. I wanted to have my life in check, have morning routines, night routines, journal everything, write things down and all of that. I wanted to be like this organized influencer, if that makes sense. And lo and behold, that ended up burning me out so quickly. And the reason being is because I'm not a robot. Oh, my back. Like, I get the importance of having a morning routine, night routine, and just organizing yourself. I get how important that is. But sometimes don't be scared to freestyle. Like, I know this is completely contradicting the whole having an educated and calculated plan. But there are times where going into there not knowing what you're going to do and then making the most out of the situation right there and then is probably the best thing you can do. So again, just a personal note to myself, do have structure. Do be organized, but don't be scared to freestyle if you feel like you can. The 17th thing I've learned, and I think I kind of mentioned this already, is how my decisions can have an impact on other people. The thing is, with the kind of person I am, with the way I present myself on social media, and with the stuff that I do in my workplace, in my church, in my college, I have influence. Whether I like to admit it or not, I have influence. And it would be completely stupid of me for me to think that I can do whatever I want to do without thinking that it can impact others in a way that isn't good. Now, I get that a lot of people are just looking out for themselves. They don't care if other people are looking at them or not. But the thing is, I care. I care about the kids that see me as a role model. I care about the people that see me as a leader, as a teacher, as somebody that plays an important role in their lives. I care about that. That's why whatever I do, I'm going to constantly look at it and see if it benefits those around me and if it benefits my image as well. The 18th thing I've learned is to take things with a grain of salt. I think my patience has improved substantially this year. There used to be some cases where some people would say stuff to me and I'd be the first person to back myself. First person be like, what are you saying? You can't say that to me. Do you know who I am? All that kind of nonsense. You get me? Now I can't picture myself doing that anymore. I can't. There'll be times where people just slander you. People just talk. And you just have to raise one shoulder, raise the other shoulder, and then drop them and then go on your way. Because realistically, if you start boxing everybody that offended you, you will end up in jail and they'll be walking free. So I've learned to take things with a grain of salt. If somebody says something to me, I'm not very quick to defend myself. And even when I do, I try to see if I could get it resolved with management or people that can do something about the situation. But for me to actually physically take things up with the person and physically fight the person, I can't do that. Thing number 19 I've learned this year is to find a healthy balance between being childish and being mature. I think with age, everybody just expects us to be more serious, you know, because you have to pay your mortgages and you have to pay your bills. Ooh, scary, scary bills. For your information, I love being childish. I want to preserve my youthful days as much as I possibly can, if that makes sense. And obviously, yeah, I do get that you have to be mature and you have to be responsible and you have to be stern in certain situations. But I need to be able to have that sort of childish release. I need to be childish sometimes. Don't ask me why. It's just who I am. Almost there, Joel. Almost there. Almost there. Thing number 20 I've learned this year is to say no when you need to say no. Listen, if you want to feel overwhelmed in 2023, say yes to everything. That's how you get overwhelmed. It is not bad for you to say no within reason. It's not bad for you to consider your own mental, physical, spiritual health before other things. Because at the end of the day, if you're not in good health, you cannot do anything. And there are some times where your morals will be tested as well. You'll be offered to do something that is directly against what you believe in, but you're offered good amount of money. Will you say no? Or will you just take the money and shrug your shoulders? It's completely up to you. But learn to say no when you need to. Alright, 21. Like to learn. Love learning. Learn to like learning. You can quote me on this. The people who perform the best at their jobs are the people that like their jobs, are the people that like doing what they do. 2022 has taught me that if I'm doing something that is excruciatingly painful or something that just doesn't appeal to me, it becomes more bearable if I just learn to like it, because you can't learn to like something if you don't like it initially. When I tell you I had 2 classes today and I walked in and walked out with the same knowledge, like I didn't learn. I barely learned anything. If you don't like something at first, you can look at how all the positive aspects of it outweigh the negatives. Like learning, it'll help you in the long run. And the last thing I've learned in 2022, the season finale, is, drumroll please, Capture memories. I've seen so many edits on TikTok that are like, and with that, the 2022 season comes to an end. Thank you for watching. You get what I mean? Does it look corny? It absolutely does. But the thing I love is how they've captured every moment, because you're not going to have those moments again. See, whatever age you turn this year, you're going to be a different age next year. Capture as many memories as you possibly can while you're still here. Every day I'm grateful to God that my dad bought me a camera, because you see, 2023, I'm going to make sure I capture so many different memories. I'm going to make sure I'm able to tell my kids and my grandkids, yeah, in 2023, yeah, we invaded the White House. We went scuba diving. Yeah, we went to Mars. All these different things. I want to make sure I capture all these different memories. And I'd advise you to do the same. Capture as much as you can in 2023. Don't let that year go wasted. Anyways, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you saw 2022 as much of a learning experience as I did. Anyways, it's been fun, and I'll see you next year. Yes, sir.